Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge Chäos hat Noah. Ich bin der Meinung, ich hatte letztes Mal Soundprobleme gehabt am Ende der Folge. Ich hoffe einfach mal, dass das jetzt etwas besser ist. Ich bin gerade am Überlegen, ich glaube, ja, wir haben ein bisschen was über Shibuya erfahren und warum da offenbar so viele junge Leute hingehen und was das potenziell mit dem Fall zu tun hat, mit den Mörderfällen. Und wir haben ein bisschen weiteres noch über das D-Sort erfahren. D-Sort to a guy by that will. As soon as I heard those words, I knew I couldn't take it anymore. Fast had been going on and on about all these things I didn't care about, all while continuing to dodge what I had actually asked her. I couldn't possibly care any less about some greater will or why Shibuya attracts young people or whatever else. There was only one thing I wanted to know.
ディソードはどうすれば手に入る
Mustering up my courage, I asked Fast that question.
教えてよ
Without changing her live expression, Fast gazed down at the D-sword she was holding. Despite how gigantic the sword was, she seemed to be handling it with incredible ease. Maybe she just had an absolute level of physical strength or something. Why is it that you will go on and on about all this random shit, yet you can't tell me the most crucial thing I need to know? You don't know? Then how in the living fuck did you get the D-sword you are holding in your hand right now? So in other words, those without the power couldn't see them, but I could see it extremely clearly. But then, what did she mean by the power? Was she saying that I had supernatural powers, like what the two Fast in front of me had? Ah ja, stimmt, ja, da waren ja zwei von dir. Die eine nur in Unterwäsche. You can see my sword, can you not? Yeah. If Shogun and Yor were destroying my life because of it, then I didn't want the stupid bullshit power. But I still did want a D-sword. Because it would grant me salvation. Fast had said so. Stuff like the greater will and the reason why Shibuya attracted young people made no difference to me. I didn't want some random power, nor did I want to be roped into all this bullshit in any way, shape or form. But in order to escape the clutches of Shogun and Yor, I had to get my hands on the sword. But Fast's answer was as ambitious as every other damn thing she had said. Biting my lip, I tried desperately to think of any way I could extract information from her. But as a person who was terrible at talking to 3D people, I couldn't think of anything that would be effective at all. I tried to pull from my bank of arrogant situations, but everything that came to mind was fairly unsettling. Just as slipping her an aphrodisiac, tying her up, or imprisoning her. Man, I may or may not be extremely fucked up. Das merkst du jetzt erst, Junge. Fast turned her back to me, then slowly began to walk deeper into the tunnel. When she said that, I realized that we still hadn't introduced ourselves to each other yet. I couldn't see Fast Ayasa's expression from where I was. Why she was laughing, I didn't know. Ayase was moving farther and farther away. I fearfully turned my head to see what happened to the other Ayase. Only to find out that she had disappeared without a trace. Had she literally disappeared, or had she just walked out of the underpass? Ayase had said that the other Ayase was a delusion. Maybe that was the power of the D-sword. I returned my gaze to the inside of the underpass, and right as I did I saw that IRC was going up the other staircase, which was about 50 meters deeper into the tunnel. Eventually her figure disappeared completely, and now all that remained was the eerie silence of the underpass. I wasn't brave enough to yell after her. I was too exhausted to run after her, and I was overwhelmed with the feeling that it wasn't worth the trouble. In the end, all I could do was return home as cautiously as I could, making sure not to be spotted by you or the police on the way. Wir haben einen neuen Freund bekommen, oder Freundin. It felt like it had been ages since I had last been in my base, but in reality it had only been half a day. I had left my computer on, leaving with my Cyberton screensaver to cast a pale light together with a smile across the dark room. I locked the door tightly from the inside and threw myself onto the sofa. When I closed my eyes, I couldn't help but remember everything that happened today. I couldn't believe even the police thought I was the culprit. They had it all wrong. There was absolutely no way I could have killed all those people. Investigate, like actually give a shit, and this isn't a game. Otaku freaks like myself were ostracized by our society, so they must have thought that they could just pin the crime on me as on one of us, and the public wouldn't even bat an eye. They couldn't actually catch the real culprit, so they wanted to save face by using me as a scapegoat. Damn it, what could I do to clear my name? The scene at Cafe flashed before my eyes, sending a chill down my spine. There existed someone that was even more terrifying than the police. You are my enemy. I had been so unbelievably relieved that I hadn't heard anything from her recently. I had been growing more and more confident that she would never contact me again. But today I had realized that I had been mistaken. In order to oppose all of them, I needed a D-sword. I glanced at the cheap sword that was leaning against my PC desk. It was a fake. I just had said that. Only people with the power can see them. The day I brought my sword, none of me had seen me with it. And unlike Ayase and Senna's sword, it didn't glow. Where would a real one be? I had to get my hands on one as soon as possible. If I didn't, I was doomed. Getting wrapped up in something this insane, it sucked so much.
あなたは DID 多重人格なんです。
No, that's not true. That's impossible. Multiple personality disorder are supposed to be rare in Japan. You've been watching way too many goddamn movies, you are. I don't have multiple personalities. There's no proof of that at all.
違う。あれは違う。
Ah ja, stimmt. Ich glaube, er hat jetzt einen Breakdown. But that chatlock is consistent with what you told me.
あんなの捏造だ。証拠にはならない。
But there's no proof that I don't have multiple personalities.
先生は僕を多重人格だなんて診断しなかった。
But that very Dr. Takashina is now gone for some unknown reason.
僕は僕だ。僕が一番よく知ってる。
But I don't actually know myself. I felt chills on the nape of my neck. The usual presence, someone was watching me, the unknown gaze. Whose eyes are those eyes?
そうだ。将軍だ。あいつが犯人だ。チャットログにもそう書いてあったじゃないか。ユアは将軍の手下だし。ニュージェネ事件だって全部将軍が。
But does Shogun truly exist? Or are you sure he isn't just a delusion?
僕はまともだ。まともなんだ。そうでしょ。
I clutched my head and shouted out to no one in particular. But what I got in reply was
メールだよ。ボケなす。
Your big dum-dum finde ich geil. Sarah. I sluggishly made my way over to the computer and checked my email. The sender was grim. Found something interesting was the subject line. It was probably just bait, and the content of the email were meant to fuck with me. I didn't have the energy to deal with him personally right now, so I stuck to just reading the email. Yeah, and I thought you haven't said to him, you haven't been, so I had no choice but to email you. I would have told you to watch this video, but you see it's really fucked. I know what you're thinking, it's probably just him fucking with me, but no, it was recorded by the new gen pub. The net's going absolutely insane over it. Hurry up and watch it before you miss the hype. Okay, a video that had been recorded by the new gen corporate. My fingertips on the mouse began to turn, but I couldn't take my eyes off the email. Did that mean the killer was in the video? Who was it? No. Was it me? I both wanted to see it and didn't want to see it, and didn't want to at the same time. This was the proof that I wasn't the killer, or proof that I was the killer. Which one would it be? I didn't know. It was a gamble. Feeling my heart begin to beat faster and faster, I moved the mouse cursor and hovered over the link. But I couldn't work up the courage to click the URL.
私あなたを助けたい
Shut up. Don't treat me like a criminal. Don't act like you feel sorry for me. I didn't do it. You're the one who, on the criminal side you are. In an intense fit of rage, I clicked on the URL. YouTube. It was a YouTube video. Okay. The word loading appeared in the video window.
僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない
In reality, it only took about 10 seconds for the video to load, but those 10 seconds felt like an eternity to me. Eventually it finished loading and the video started to play. It was a video of a very dark place. The background was pitch black, maybe it was indoors. I leaned my head in close to the monitor, trying my best to pass the information on the screen. It was dark and therefore hard to see, but there were several men and women there. They were making a ton of noise. Maybe that's because the bitrate was too low, or maybe because the people in the video were too distorted, but I couldn't make out a single thing they were saying. Every once in a while, whenever someone screamed violently, the sound would clip horribly. After watching for a bit longer, I was able to determine that there were 5 people in the video. If you included the cameraman, it would be 6. The cameraman didn't enter the frame at all. Because of how dark it was, the faces of the 5 people were just barely visible. As though to comfort one another, they were caressing each other's heads, patting each other's shoulders and hugging. I could also hear the high-pitched sobbing of a girl likely overcome with emotion. It was definitely bizarre, but how did this video have any connection to New Gen? Was the person filming this really the New Gen culprit? At the very least, I knew I had no memory of recording something like this. Wheelchair! And then after a short while the camera, or rather the person holding the camera, began to slowly move forward. The 5 subjects were about 5 meters away from the camera and gradually grew larger and larger. The picture was fairly grainy. Maybe the original image data was re-encoded at an extremely low bitrate in order to reduce its size. A modern video camera should have a night vision function, so I wondered why the cameraman hadn't made use of it. Could it have been an older camera? As soon as I thought that, the camera suddenly panned to the left and then to the right, showing the surrounding scenery. What I had initially thought was just the pitch black darkness of a room was actually the night sky. In other words, the video had been recorded outdoors. Ja, um genau zu sein sogar auf einem Hochhaus. Und das hier ist ein Helikopterlandeplatz. As for the reason why there wasn't a single building or anything, it was because the video has been taken on the roof of a skyscraper. Und zwar in einem ganz bestimmten Hochhaus. Und ich sag mal so. Das ist alles, was ich... Okay, mehr sage ich nicht. The 5 people were on the edge of the roof of a very tall building. Okay, ich habe nichts gesagt, ich habe nur gezeigt, aber... Right behind them was the ledge, and right below that ledge was a glittering nightscape of Shibuya that could only be seen at high altitudes. This is Finally understood. I finally understood what this video was. I finally understood why it was said to have been recorded by the new gen culprit.
集団ダイブ
Yup. Group dive. A locked room mystery in which a group of 5 men and women and jumped from the roof of Cornelius Tower. The sole fact that remained unclear about Neurogen was whether or not this specific incident was a murder case or a group suicide. If this video was of the 5 people who jumped off to the death, then that would mean that there had been a 6th person at the scene when the incident occurred. The 5 people shown in the video hadn't just been making noise for the sake of it. They were all slumped down on the ground crying and shouting as they huddled together. They all refused to give up despite the fact that they were fated to die soon. One was shaking their head in denial as they cried. One was clutching their hair tightly as they fell to their knees, their shoulders heaving with each sob. One was pleading with the cameraman as they sobbed, asking why they were doing this. One had already gone mad and was laughing as tears streamed down his face. It was a rabid, violent desire to stay alive. A fervent, intense plea to not die. Disconsolated indignation that screamed, "Why is this happening to us?" Innumerable raw emotions swirled around the group. Yet in a bizarre juxtaposition, the cameraman's voice was never once heard. The camera was eerily calm.
やめろやめろ
No matter how much I pleaded with the footage that had been taken nearly a month ago, nothing was going to change. I knew full well that it was meaningless, but I subconsciously screamed at my monitor all the same.
こいつらみんな死にたくなんかないんだぞ
With no possible way for my words to reach them, the cameraman was slowly moved even closer to the 5 people. Terrified, the 5 of them all tried to crawl away to get away from the camera, but they couldn't. Right behind them was the very edge of the helipad. There was no guardrail of any kind. The 5 of them had nowhere to go. If they moved back even a little bit farther, they would fall. Refusing to hit the 5 pleas for their lives, the camera continued to focus solely on filming, as if to agitate the 5 all the more. He had driven them completely to the edge, to the point where they took no further action at all. Then, without any sort of cue, nor any from the 5 people who had all been crying in grief suddenly fell silent. Then they all stood up. The wind on the rooftop of the Cornelius Tower was powerful. Beckoned by the wind, the 5 of them nearly staggered. If there was even the slightest misstep, they would fall. As if in preparation for such a thing, the 5 men and women all joined hands similarly in resignation. They grasped each other's hands tightly.
よせやめろ謝るな
Silence. It seemed to me that even the sound of the wind wiping violently through the air had stopped. All I could hear was the sound of ears of cars driving along the Schutte expressway at the foot of the building. Even then, the cameraman did not make a single move. And then, a single person among the 5 whispered, "Whose eyes are those eyes?"
その目誰の目
I froze in front of the monitor, feeling as though my heart was being strangled by an ice-cold hand.
なんでまたその言葉なんだよ
Wasn't this supposed to be the first new gen scene? A new gen case? Whose eyes are those eyes had been the dying message from the vampire case, and that one came forth. This didn't make any goddamn sense. Paying no mind to the screaming inside my head, the video continued to play. Hand in hand, the 5 men and women slowly stepped out into the empty air, almost as if there was a path laid out before them. And then just like that, the five fell into the nightscape of the big city. I bit my lip and covered my eyes. Boah, das war ein fieses Geräusch. The group dive hadn't been a mass suicide. It too was a murder case. The culprit had been there when it happened. And as for who had filmed the video, I knew who it was. Mixed in with the sounds of the strong wind of the rooftop, mixed in with the sounds of the 5 people crying out in grief, mixed in with the blaring horns from Schutte expressway below. I was certain that I had heard one particular faint sound. It was the sound of a creaking steel. A sound that could only be heard when the cameraman was moving forward. the sound of a wheelchair.
あの時僕の前に現れたのは現実だったんだね。カメラの目線が低すぎだよ、将軍。
Chapter 4 D-Sword haben wir damit abgeschlossen. Chapter 5 Delusion. To no one's surprise, the leaked video of the group dive exploded. Graham had told me that the entire internet was going insane and IO and... Okay, ich weiß jetzt nicht... Egal. And behold, he wasn't lying. A huge chunk of channel was now convinced that all 4 new gen murders had been committed by the same person. Okay, ich konnte das nicht erkennen, was das TLDR. Okay. Too long didn't read. Okay. Name either. Was this? School dropped out to be Shizuka. The guy who upped it on YouTube has to be the perp. It's so freaking... Okay, I report that immediately. Was written as that means there was connection between the first and the last case, despite all the people saying that had nothing to do with it. So it's then means that the man child case also have to be connected. Damn, I'm getting way too way into this. Line dancer. Also, Reed's first appearance was the... So it couldn't possibly have copied the group dive. No, don't look. Smoke weed every day. What the fuck? I saw the video, but it looks fake as shit. Some actors just... You tried really off to stop using... So often the killer just wants attention and you are giving it to him. The same dude... With eyes, others' eyes. Yeah, the tower is in it where it's actually just 2 meters tall and there's a trampoline or something below. It'll laugh my ass off. Agreed, if that phrase keeps being turned there will be being more murders. You will not need to track down. It's not just a meme anymore. I live in Shibuya. Obligatory don't look. It's topping the charts. The view count is celebrated don't look. Time to make some MXQ news to report. Anything from the perp behind read. Breaking news taking over every station. The news on TV was just as erratic. Like, 104 had said every available station save for TOTV had been interrupted by the breaking news where they had played the leaked video on loop. The broadcast had lasted for about an hour. It was pretty shocking to see that the footage had actually been broadcast across the entire country. Of course, other stations censored the part where they had dived off the building at the end, but it was still extremely impactful. The opinions of those on TV were more or less the exact same as everyone's online. They all attributed to the 4 Nugent case to the same culprit. Then again, that wasn't really much of a surprise. They had finally found a common denominator between them after all. Whose eyes, others' eyes. It had become a popular phrase all throughout Shibuya. The phrase had first been shown to the world when the details behind the 4th case, the vampire, were shared. People then learned that the victims of the group dive had said it as well, even though it had occurred a month before the vampire case. In the 4 incidents that had occurred so far, it had been used in both the first and the last one. It had to mean something. It made the feel that a single person was behind the murders all the more probable. The police then held a press conference stating that they intended to identify the person who had posted the video as soon as they could. A number of politicians commented that the actions of the culprit were completely deplorable and that they needed to be apprehended immediately. The YouTube video had been removed by a moderator less than 3 hours after it was uploaded, but by then it was too late. That's the Internet for you. Also, das ist das Internet. Was einmal im Internet ist, kriegst du nie wieder raus. Das ist nicht zwingend vorteilhaft, dass das der Fall ist. Edgen had already gotten the hands on it, and from there nothing could have stopped it from being re-uploaded and spreading like wildfire. And then, just before midnight, the following facts had been revealed through a police statement. The group dive video was uploaded from a computer located in Shibuya Manga Cafe known as Ed Cafe. It was uploaded from a specific private room in the facility, room number 37. Scheiße! Das ist Takus Room, beziehungsweise den Raum, den Taku immer nutzt. I sat paralyzed in my seat, my head hanging low as I hugged myself tightly. Without realizing it, I had started eavesdropping. I was becoming hypersensitive to the voices coming from my surroundings. I read a lot of conversations, and unsurprisingly the group dive video was the topic on everyone's mind. Some girls were even jokingly saying to each other, "Whose eyes are those eyes?" I bit my lip and let my gaze wander onto the surface of my desk. That video was evidence. Evidence that Shogun actually existed. Evidence that I hadn't killed anyone. It proved that I didn't have multiple personalities. That the old-looking man in a wheelchair was the Nugent killer. But why would Shogun even upload it? Why would he hint at himself being the killer when the culprit's identity had been shrouded in mystery so far? Only two explanations made sense to me. Nummer 1. First, Shogun was throwing off by killing people because it amused him, which was pretty likely considering the time when he had appeared in front of me. Or he was trying to provoke me. For some reason, Shogun and his underling Yura were doing everything in their power to fuck with me. I didn't know the reason why. I just knew that they were trying to frame me as the new Jane culprit. At this point, even the police were probably suspicious of me. Shogun was trying to corner me.
僕のメッセージは受け取ってくれた？目覚めるんだ。早く出ないともっとたくさんの人が死んじゃうことになるから。忘れないで。君は逃げちゃいけない。
Oh, scheiße gelaufen. When he had appeared in front of me, that was what he said. It felt like he had been trying to intimidate me, and that he was basically saying, "I'm going to kill you too, don't you dare run away." And now he had totally blindsided me by uploading that video and making sure that it spread all throughout Japan. There was no doubt that Shogun had moved his plan to the next phase. It had been naive to think that I wasn't being targeted anymore. If anything, it would be more accurate to say that his plotting against me had moved from passive to active. It was now finally in full swing. I was terrified, especially of that video. Shogun had killed 5 high schoolers without even lifting a finger, despite being even worse physically than me. If all the Nugent cases were actually his doing, then all those other gruesome murders, the man-child crucifixion and vampire, had all been acted by that very same frail body. Or maybe Yura had helped him out. In any case, I didn't have any faith that I would be able to defend myself against people who would commit such horrible atrocities. Just thinking of them sent chills down my spine. Chills that combined with the red-hot anger I was feeling. Why was I being targeted like this? What did I do to deserve it? And there was also the message, whose eyes are those eyes? If I wasn't careful, I would start trembling uncontrollably. To keep that under control, I had to keep my body from relaxing. I had to always be aware of surroundings and be ready to bolt the second I sensed someone approaching. I didn't know when Shogun or Yura would show themselves again. Hell, I had no guarantee that Yura was Shogun's only underling. Maybe even my own classmates were under his influence. The laughter and idle chatter acting as mere camouflage until just the right moment. I had to find a way to parry surprise attacks like the one in Ed Cafe yesterday. If I didn't, I would be killed next time for sure. I needed to get a D-Sword ASAP. The only way out of this was to get the D-Sword. I had internalized what Ayas and Senna had said. And I had searched online, but it all had me convinced. Getting my hands on a D-Sword would save me. The night before, I desperately tried to gather information on D-Swords while keeping an eye on the new gen sets from, but my research barely bore any results. Ich würde sagen, an dem Punkt beende ich jetzt diese Folge. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao!